Hi, this is Susan Young, author of 7 Steps to Pursue Your Passion, a creative solution for choosing your profession. I designed these steps with you in mind, and my goal with this interview is to share with you how my guests discovered a profession pursuing their passion by following these same 7 steps in my book. I hope you enjoy the interview and learn the importance of understanding who you are before you choose what you want to do.
My guest today is Dr. Tanya Carmeli, a board-certified dermatologist. Dr. Carmeli, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi, I'm a board-certified dermatologist and I'm a volunteer assistant clinical professor at UCLA, where I practice and teach dermatology in Santa Monica and Los Angeles, California.
That's great. Dr. Kormeili, can you tell us, when did you first realize that you wanted to be a doctor? And more specifically, how did you choose to be a dermatologist? Tell us your story of how you discovered that this was your passion.
Well, I grew up in a family where all the women in my family were naturopaths and healers. And whenever someone got sick, all the women rushed to take care of them. So growing up, I thought that's just what you do. If you're a girl, you take care of people when they are sick or need anything. And as time went by, I realized, wow, you actually have to go to school for this. And I didn't particularly want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a teacher and ballerina and all sorts of artistic things. I really liked fashion and liked the idea of going to beauty school because I liked makeup. And it was right around high school that I was thinking, well, what kind of career should I choose? And I went to the library and did extensive research on what it would be to be a doctor, because by then people were like, you kind of sound like a doctor. You should really consider doing that. And I was very intimidated because, the number of school years that you have to put in is just a lot. So I had to make sure this is what I want to do. So I'm the type of person who's also very organized and very on top of things. So I wasn't going to just go to college and waste time. I had to know what I was going to get out of college. So I showed up to the library and I researched every career, from physician's assistant, nursing, law, business degrees. And really, at the end of the day, I even tried to work for a dental office. But what really stood out for me was being a medical doctor. And I had some experience working in a hospital. I was a volunteer. And I just remember having some of my best memories in terms of interacting with people and feeling that I connect with other human beings while I was just, a helpless high school volunteer in the different hospitals that I volunteered. So I really enjoyed that connection and that ability to be able to care for others. And as I did my pre-med schooling, I really was good at the sciences and thought, I think what I'm going to do is become a family practice doctor, because then I get to see every member of the family. I get to take care of the mom, the grandma, and they can come to me for everything that there is, and I get to grow old with my patients. So that was my thinking until one summer in medical school, I needed to kind of find a job to support myself, and I wasn't going to ask my parents to support me because, by then you're supposed to be a grown-up. I was thinking about what to do, and a professor of mine came up to me and said, hey, I'm going to write a grant. Can I put it under your name, and then you be my student for the summer? And I thought, wow, this is great. This is in family practice, what I want to do. Sure. And, of course, being, overly concerned about the future, I was like, well, what if he doesn't get this grant and I end up not having a summer job and I'm homeless? So I went to the student affairs office, and long story short, they're like, there's a book, go apply to whatever you want. And I found this grant to work in dermatology, and I knew nothing about dermatology. And I thought, why not? Let's just do this. And at the time, I had no idea that this is even more competitive than family practice. And I was one of 25 students in the entire country to receive this grant. And when they called me, they said, where do you want to go to do your grant? I thought, well, send me somewhere where I see the sickest patients in the world. They sent me to Martin Luther King Hospital. And that was really my first introduction to dermatology. And I got to see all sorts of diseases and really learn about everything. And right away, I was very, very interested. When the clinic was over, I couldn't wait to go read about the stuff I had seen. And it really catered to things that came naturally to me, which was pattern recognition. I was really good with colors and textures. I was very good visually. I could look at somebody and be like, oh, this person's a size 6 and this dress would look really good on them. So being able to recognize these minor subtleties in colors and shapes and patterns is really essential for being a good dermatologist. And then you have to have a high affinity for people, because when something is on your skin, you are really a lot more concerned about it than if it's inside your body and you can't see it. So people tend to be very needy and they really want to bond with you, and you have to have a lot of patience for people because they're really coming to you in their hour of need. And I was really good with that because I really enjoyed being with people and I really had a passion for interacting with people. So it came naturally, and I scored really high on my test. And then as the years came by and I did the other rotations, nothing felt as good as dermatology. And I thought, oh, my God, this is it. I get to be with all members of the family as their dermatologist. I get to treat grandma's skin cancer, take care of little wart on Junior, take care of the bride, and do cosmetic procedures for her big day. And I get to be able to take care of infections, skin cancers, look under the microscope and do dermatopathology, lasers, cosmetics, all the aesthetic things I ever liked, beauty. There was like no doubt in my mind that it's either dermatology or I wasn't going to practice medicine at all, because I loved what I had learned in medical school, but I just didn't have the passion for anything else like I did for dermatology. So then it was a matter of getting enough research and experience to be able to secure a position to be able to train as a dermatologist.
And so how many years of school did you need beyond medical school to specialize in dermatology?
Yeah, so after the 4 years of medical school, you have to do a year of either medicine or surgery to become a practicing physician in the state of California. And then after that is another 3 years of dermatology. So another 4 years typically after medical school. But what I did is I also did an extra year where I worked for the FDA, and I did clinical trials for the University of California, Irvine. And being a sub-investigator was an incredible opportunity because you got to work with patients who are getting health care for free. You get to spend hours with them, really get to know them, and be at the latest cutting edge of what was happening in dermatology. And a lot of the medicines that I did research on are now commercially available and are on the market, and patients are enjoying them. And the research that put those medicines there is linked to me. So I really found that very enjoyable. So all in all, I did another 5 years after medical school.
Wow. Okay. And when you went for that internship, because I say that in my program, you know, do as many internships as you can because you get that opportunity. So what was it when you read that grant that made you say, oh, let me try this as a as my first try in a specialty?
You know, I just read it and I thought, this sounds cool. It was kind of that gut instinct, the same way you meet a person and you're like, I like Susan. She's nice. It was not any, it was just a gut reaction. I remember I saw that page and I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. Let's do this.
Right. And did you have any professors that particularly said that would be a good area, or did your family encourage you in that area, or you just went with your gut and that was it?
Oh, my gosh, it was exactly the opposite. When I was a student at UCLA, there was an emphasis to put everybody in primary care, and dermatology is a specialty. So we were discouraged from going into specialties because there was a shortage of primary care. So, no. In fact, everybody discouraged me from going into specialty and thought I would be better off being in primary care. And my family, they're all into, none of them are actual doctors. So they didn't have an opinion one way or another. They just wanted me to be happy. It was just my gut feeling. I thought, wow, this sounds really cool. I would be happy with this, just the same way you would pick something on a menu when you're like, oh, that sounds delicious. I'd like to try that.
Mm-hmm. And you experienced it and you saw the difference, right? Like you were saying, you feel it in your body when you're doing something you're passionate about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, I mean, I was really good in medical school. I scored on top of my class. So it was never that I was bad at one of the rotations. And in fact, I loved working with women so much that I considered going to gynecology. But, you know, when I would come home and read about gynecology, I would be neutral, or maybe semi-interested in certain areas because I knew at some point I would have children, or this is my body. Or I would read about orthopedic surgery, and I thought, that sounds kind of cool, but kind of gross. I don't want to be hammering into a bone. But when I would read about dermatology, I would light up, and next thing you knew, I would read things that I didn't have to read. It wasn't mandatory reading.
That's how you knew, because you were
Oh,
interested in what I call product knowledge. You had this ability, but you wanted to apply it in this particular area.
Yes, because I just wanted to know, and when I would read it, my interest levels would go higher, and it would raise questions. And I did ended up working on several research projects and published, and my articles that were published then were translated into other languages and were used to publish other articles because they were kind of new in their field. So I ended up, from being young, actually contributing somewhat to my field just because I had a passion for it. And, it was really never because someone held a gun to my head and said, you're going to be tested on this information.
Right. It was something you just had an interest in that you pursued further.
Mhm.
And when you look at your personality, like you mentioned a lot of aspects of your personality, wanting to treat the whole family and wanting to have like a relationship with people and really, helping people, when they're really kind of, in need, because face it, your face, you do see your skin. You're right. That's very visible. If you have something wrong, you can't hide it. So tell me about a little bit more about your personality, the traits that you have that being a dermatologist really brought out, those sense of really connecting to people. If you were to describe your personality, in other words, if people were listening and they're thinking about dermatology and they say, well, my personality is X, like you said, you love to do research and stuff. So just kind of describe how, what you would say about your personality.
Well, my personality, I'm very social, I'm very outgoing. I have a huge affinity for other people. I do better at the end of the day if I've talked to 40 people versus 2 people. I really enjoy that interaction. It energizes me to be around others. And when I connect with other people, and medicine is one of the, I think, kind of like maybe like being a rabbi or a priest, you actually have a spiritual connection to someone because they're trusting you in a way that it's very different than if you went to the bank.
Right.
So you would really trust somebody, and patients feel you as a spiritual being, as a human being, and they have to trust you with their innermost secrets, their embarrassing stories, or their fears, and they have to, at the end of the day, they have to trust me. And I think that I'm always a person that holds myself to the highest integrity, and to me, that's the most important. And I think gut feeling, we know when someone has integrity and is honest and can be trusted. And I think you have to have that when you work with people because, if you ruin someone's liver, maybe they wouldn't know. But, boy, would they know if you botched their scar in their arm because I can't hide it. And so they trust you a lot more. And so I think that was a huge part. The other thing that I think with my personality was that I was always, very lighthearted about things. And I think you have to be in dermatology because if you're very serious, you can create even more of an upset with the patient because they come in for things that they don't like and may not be a big thing. You may not even see it, but boy, do they hate that mole, or boy, do they hate that hair that grew out from wherever. And if you don't have a sense of humor about it, I think it makes the day very dull because people come in with a list of 12 things on their body that they don't like or they have questions about. So you have to have a high affinity and also have a humor about it to be able to kind of prioritize what's important because of the 12 things that they may want to talk about, there might be one cancer on them that they don't want to talk about, but it's still important to cover. So you have to be able to, you don't win everyone. By no means am I perfect or does everybody love me. But you have to be able to win most people over because, dermatology has that. Then the other thing I think with my personality was that I was always into, fashion and I liked beauty and I was a product junkie, I loved makeup and things like that. And if you have a passion for that, and I think this is where female dermatologists do better, so patients want to know that. They come to me with bags of stuff they're using, and they want me to sort through it, and some of which I have come across at Sephora or whatever, and some of it I'm learning for the first time, and I have to kind of look at the ingredients and say, it's kind of a waste of money, or I don't know about this one. So I think that kind of helps. Is just being a girly girl helps in dermatology. If I was very, very serious, maybe I would have made a better neurosurgeon. But right. I think in dermatology you have to be very human-like.
Right. So you care about people's beauty. You care about their skin. So it's not just maybe something wrong, it's maybe certain products that might not be good for their skin.
Yes.
Right. And when you look at the diversity of your work, when you see all the different things that you deal with, did you need that in a profession? In other words, if you were dealing with one illness day in, day out, that be something that wouldn't be satisfying? Do you like and need the diversity of dermatology? Because you mentioned a whole list of things that you deal with. Did you need that in a profession?
I do. There are people within dermatology, all they do is skin tumors, or all they do is cosmetics, or all they do is pediatrics. I knew that's not for me. I thought that I want to be really good at something and be the doctor and the surgeon for that organ, and dermatology lends itself to that because you definitely specialize and you can do all procedures. But I didn't want to just see one type of condition all day. To me, I really wanted to be around the people more than the disease. So when you have more of my type of practice, which is everything, I do skin cancers, we take out melanomas, so in one day I've saved a life, beautified another, looked at the microscope, diagnosed something else, and played with a kid, try to distract him to take off a wart. So that kind of interaction is really what energizes me. To me, that's a lot more important than the actual disease. As much as it's interesting to know about disease patterns, and I really enjoy the basic science and stuff, the people is really what's behind it. So if I have 20 great patients in a row, I'm so energized. I can run 40 miles, it feels like. But when I'm kind of have a day where maybe it's not going so well and I feel like I'm not connecting to people and I kind of feel lonely, I actually get depressed. And I think that's just my personality. So I would not have done well just doing research in a lab where it's not directly applicable to human life.
Right. You need the interaction with people.
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
And what would you say is the lifestyle of a dermatologist? Because you had mentioned maybe being, a gynecologist or, even an obstetrician, they have all crazy hours, or being a surgeon. What's the lifestyle like? In other words, can you have a normal life? Can you have a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job, or are you, constantly, doing research, or constantly on call, or working nights and weekends? Because that's a big thing for people, especially people who, want, a family life. They might not want a profession where they're going to be, have to work, a lot of hours. So what is the lifestyle like for a dermatologist or for you?
Well, it's great. I mean, from all the fields in medicine, I think few lend themselves to being this great, and I'm very grateful for that. So you can definitely work whatever hours you wanted because we're mostly outpatient, and I personally don't go to the hospital to treat patients. So while I think the lifestyle is an important consideration, because for me, I wanted to be a balanced human being. For me, having balance in life is really important. When I feel like I'm neglecting my family or my friends or my health, or I'm not working out, or I'm all about work, or I feel like I'm not working enough, either one of those creates anxiety for me. I like to be kind of centered. So that's really important for me. However, I think choosing a job just based on lifestyle is a huge mistake, because there have been definitely in private practice, I work a lot harder and I have to take on a lot more responsibility. And, having a business has so many headaches, especially in California, that you deal with where you wouldn't if I was employed by, say, a hospital. So just even within dermatology. But you have to choose what makes you happy and brings out the best in your personality. And I think that is really the key. If you don't follow your passion and choose something because the hours are right, or because the salary is right, or because it will make you a decent living, it is torture, especially if you've gone to 13 years of schooling and gave up all your 20s, and then you show up and you're not being fulfilled all day more than a paycheck. It is purely torture. So I know people who are, for example, cardiothoracic surgeons, friends of mine, who love what they do. They would be bored to death being a dermatologist. They can't care less about someone who has acne. But they work hard, but they're so energized by what they do, and they have very good family lives and such. So I think following your passion is really the key to success. And if you just choose things because it sounds good on paper, really at the end the joke is on you, because you're going to be so miserable those very few hours that you're even at work.
Right. What great advice. You said you also teach. What extra credentials or courses did you have to take to be able to teach?
Well, when you are the hospital basically credentials you. So I went through the credentialing process. I went to UCLA for medical school and for my undergrad. So when I moved back to town, I really wanted to contribute back to UCLA in some way. And so I was a known product because I was already a medical student. People knew me. So it wasn't very hard when I asked if I could come on board and teach. And there is a very specific protocol you go through to be able to do that. But, mainly for me it was an avenue to be able to give back, because when I was a student, people came to me and they're like, hey, do you want to do research with us? Hey, what would be a great thing for you to learn? And when I was a resident, the people who came from their private practices, and I have to tell you, it's a big loss because you have to close down your own practice. Your overhead is still there, right? Your patients are complaining because they can't get to see you that afternoon. And you basically go and volunteer your time to teach others. So, again, you have to have a passion for it, because otherwise it's just a loss of money. So I always appreciated the people who did that for me when I was in my residency, because I learned so much from the people who were in private practice, where I would not have learned if I was just learning from, as amazing as my professors were in the field of dermatology. I would not have learned all that had it not been for a different perspective coming from somewhere outside of an academic center. And so I really enjoy working with residents. They're so bright. They're so smart. They're such great doctors. It's really a pleasure to be a colleague to them, and they're just budding with interest, and being able to help them in any way is really a pleasure of mine. And, as part of that, I get to basically see patients and care for them for free, and I feel that that's something I always wanted to do in addition to doing it at UCLA. I'm also on clinical faculty at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, and I do that in a clinic where it's an underserved clinic. These are people who would not have access to a dermatologist otherwise. They're pretty sick sometimes, and I get to, again, work with residents and take care of these patients at both places. And it's an opportunity to give back to society, because, one of the things I realized as I was growing up and kind of finishing up my 20s is that there's more to life than just me and my core family. There's this whole world outside, and if you want to live really happy within you and your family, you have to make sure the world you live around you, as corny as that sounds, is also doing well, because we all are interconnected. And being able to give back to the community is actually really fulfilling too. As much as it's a hassle to be able to take that time off to do it, once you're there, you've made a change in someone's life that may in some positive way come back to even affect me later. So that's something that, again, that was something that I always enjoyed and I plan to do.
Yes. Well, it sounds like I could hear the passion in your voice for your profession. Is there anything else that you want to share about the profession that we haven't covered?
Well, I think a lot of people want to go into dermatology because it's got such glamour and it's kind of Hollywoodsy. And I think people, and I get a lot of students and people calling me, and they're like, well, should I do dermatology? I really want to do dermatology. I think my biggest advice is don't do it because it sounds like it's going to make a lot of money. Because though medicine can be profitable, if you wanted to just do something for money, healthcare is the worst way to start. Really, because if you're going to do an honest job, there are a lot of times you have to do things that you lose money with. It's just not a good business decision at all. But it's absolutely the most ethical thing to do at that moment for that patient. And if you want to hold your ethics in, medicine is actually really tough to get really rich at, because you have to give so much of yourself to that individual that needs you. So I think anybody who wants to choose dermatology, I would really advise them to kind of look and see, am I doing it for the right reason? Do I really love the skin, hair, nails? Is this something that I want to learn about? Do I see myself every day seeing patients who come to me with these problems and want me to fix it? Or is it like, I kind of don't like medicine. I thought maybe dermatology, the hours were good, and I get to do cosmetics, and I've heard there's a lot of money in cosmetics. I think that's absolutely the wrong way to go into the profession. And I've known a lot of people who tried to be dermatologists, they're in other fields, and decide one day, I think I'm going to start a med-spa. And, they've really gone bankrupt almost, because that's not the way you do it. Right. So my advice to everyone who calls me is just follow your passion. If it's medicine, absolutely do it. So then I had this one image of this one girl. She was kind of petite like me and young and very stylish. She was wearing a long white coat, so I knew she was a doctor, and I was a student in college. I looked across, and I saw her in her white coat, and I thought, oh, my God, if I don't do what she's doing, I'm always going to be in regret. This is it. This is what I want to do. I want to be her. And I identified with her so much, and the way she was caring for patients, and the way she carried herself, and the way that she was still very feminine but still a doctor. So if that's the feeling that you have, like if I don't do it, I'm always going to be sorry I didn't do it, absolutely do it. But if it's kind of like, it's between medicine or law, or maybe I want to do real estate, then I say, well, look into everything else first.
Something else. That is great advice. Dr. Kormeili, if people want to learn more about you, please share your contact information if they would like to get a hold of you or find out more about what you do or possibly become one of your patients.
It's very easy to look me up. I'm the only Dr. Carmeli, as far as I know, in the entire world. No other doctors came out of my family. And my last name is spelled K-O-R-M like Mary, E-I-L-I. And our website is www.drtkderm.com. So that's T like Tanya and K like Kormeili, derm.com. And the doctor is DR. So drtkderm.com.
Well, this has been a great interview. I just want to thank you for all these valuable insights into the field of dermatology. And if anyone wants to get a hold of her, you have her contact information. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Hi, this is Susan Young. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Now I want to ask you, are you passionate about your profession? During the interview, I covered the 7 steps you need to follow to discover a profession pursuing your passion. To learn more about my system, go to professionprepacademy.com.